Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about a bunch of video game pickups I got at a Japanese store called Surugaya Specialty Shop or Store. I don't know. Surugaya is really all we ever call it. It's a series of stores throughout Japan, and I did a bunch of game hunting there. Like, we have 7 game hunting videos throughout Japan that I think you guys will enjoy. I've done a few videos already on some of the pickups I acquired from a store chain called Hard Off, and also just a few that were thrown into an episode of Playload. And I'm sure you guys have seen some of those and enjoyed it. Now, there's a lot more than what you're seeing here. This is going to be a kind of a 2-chunk video, really. We'll do this, and then we'll do that stuff that's down there. It's a lot of cool stuff. A lot of weird stuff, but a lot of cool stuff. And we're going to talk all about it. But before we do that, though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like the video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done it before, and check out all the social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, my travel channel. I appreciate the support on all those platforms. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, Discord's a big deal because a bunch of the guys I know in Japan, that's how we all coordinate, is in my server, and then you hang out with people, you get to know them, and then we can all just, go to different stores together. It's a lot of fun. And the travel channel, you can also see these people and see the adventures of what all these places are like if you're ever thinking about going to Japan or any some such place, and you want to know stuff just beyond video games, like how does customs work and all that sort of stuff. It's all over there. I hope you guys will enjoy it. Now, pickups time. So, like I said, there's way more than this. You're just going to have to bear with me. Especially towards the end of the first section, because there's going to be some stuff that's questionable. But before we get into that, we'll start over here on stuff that is not. So first thing up for the PlayStation 2. This is the King of Fighters 94 Reboot. So I looked a little bit into this because I've seen this before, but I'd always kind of passed on it. This time I found it for kind of cheap, and I actually thought I had it, but then I looked it up and I realized I didn't. So I was like, all right, I'll pick it up. Now, I'm not an expert on what happened here, but to my layman understanding, this is what went down. SNK was basically working on upgraded versions of all the classic King of Fighters games, from 94 onward up until probably, I would guess, 97, that they were kind of trying to, let's say HD-ify back as it would have been defined in this era. And they were trying to update it, not only like remakes and enhancements, but they also created online support, basically just kind of bringing that content forward. And to that end, they made this game. It's cool. It actually comes with like a special booklet on the game. It even shows just a photo of a Neo Geo controller pad for the PS2, which, by the way, there's a Sega Saturn version of the same idea for the PlayStation 2, because both SNK and Sega were around the same time, were just making collections of stuff for the PS2. But this game was intended to be released in Europe as well as North America for the PlayStation 2, and there was an intended original Xbox version. All of them were canceled. This is the only version of this that ever got released, and then the reboot of 95 and onward never got made. I don't know why. I think around that time is when Playmore stepped in at SNK, because SNK was its own thing, and then they're even mentioned on the box, SNK Playmore. But I'm guessing around this time is when Playmore stepped in, and that might have been the old company's idea. They released this one just because it was so far along and then they were done with it. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just kind of guessing. Or it was a stupendous flop. I have no clue. The game itself is actually pretty cool. But yeah, it never got released beyond that. The Xbox version, though, at least a prototype build of it, did get dumped online a few years ago. I've played it. It's very buggy and unfinished, but it is what it is. That's what I expect out of a prototype. But yeah, all the same, this is the only iteration that was ever released, and I think it's a cool pickup, so I grabbed it. That would be it for PS2 content, though. The original Xbox. I talked about this in my Hard Off video. At this point with the original Xbox, the only thing I really seek out is demo discs because I have all the Japanese exclusives, so there's not really anything else for me to look for. I like demo discs. I think they're kind of fun to collect for because it's an interesting little subset. They're always cheap because no one cares. And to be frank, I never know what I'm going to find because there's not really a great comprehensive list on them. So the part of me is a preservationist, so I kind of like to see what's out there and archive it if at all possible. Unlike, say, something like the PlayStation 2 where there's just so much content that the only ones I ever pick up is these unique ones that are like something that's really playable and interesting to me for one reason or another. But yeah, the PS2 is more of a system where I get stuff I would play. Other systems, it's like, oh, it exists. Let me just get that. That's where the original Xbox at this point comes in. So to that end, I got some demo discs. This was kind of funny. I picked up Murakumo, the movie disc. This got released over here, although I forget what the American name of this game is. But yeah, I saw this in a store. It was just a couple bucks. I picked it up, and I was like, all right, cool, no problem. In a completely different Surugaya, in a completely different part of the country, I saw it again and totally forgot I had already bought it, so I bought it a second time. Again, just a couple bucks. So this one is sealed. This one was sealed. Now, I had intended to be like, oh. But then I thought, well, okay, I have two. I'm going to open one of them just to enjoy it. The other one I'll leave sealed. This was just me being an idiot. Like, I just screwed up and bought the same thing twice. But you're talking about a mistake that's like $3 mistake. Like, this is not that big of a deal. So yeah, I was able to at least archive one of these just for, you know, the fun of it. But yeah, just a cool thing. Funny thing is, ironically, there's not even any gameplay in this. It's literally just a movie disc. It just contains images of the game and stuff like that. One that I found that was pretty cool. This one is sealed. I say unfortunately because that means I can't really do anything with it. It's essentially a display piece. I'd like to at least dump them, but apparently they've all been kind of dumped online, so it's not like it's not out there. Xbox ISM Summer 2004. If you guys saw some of the videos I did last summer of some Japanese pickups, I found a few of these, like Winter 2003 and, you know, whatever. They're just collections of demo discs and videos and things like that for the original Xbox. These are very... I don't know, I'm not going to say they're common, but I see them enough that it's interesting that there's how many of these exist, but they're almost always sealed. And that tells me how rarely the Japanese ever used them, which is not really shocking. So in case you're like, why are there so many of these demo discs? And trust me, there's way more over here for the Dreamcast. I don't always know the answer to this, but typically the way this would work is if you went into a game store and bought a new game, they would include a demo disc for an upcoming project, or if you pre-ordered a game, a demo disc would come with it. It was just an advertising mechanism. It's a concept that we don't do anymore for obvious reasons. But I would think in most of the cases with the Xbox stuff, it was like, I don't care about this, and it just but the Japanese also don't really destroy stuff if they don't have to. So it was, I don't care about this, but I will put it in a pile and let it sit there until I sell it to Hard Off for 4 cents. But whatever, that's what happened. Now, another demo disc I got that's a full case demo disc. These are very misleading because you'll see like the full spine and be like, oh, it's just a game, I'm going to skip past it, until you realize, no, that's a demo disc. For the original Xbox, obviously, Phantom Dust, the demo disc. This one is open, so there was no big deal there. This is funny because so Phantom Dust was an interesting title. It was made by Microsoft Game Studios specifically for the Japanese market, and originally was just supposed to be a Japanese exclusive. But the content we saw out of it, I remember this, I'm old enough to remember this, back in the day, the content we saw out of it was so interesting that a bunch of fans started demanding at Microsoft, like, bring that over, I want to try that. So they decided to do so, and that's how we ended up getting it. But that said, because it was originally intended as a big Japanese thing, there was promo materials like this. It's actually got a marker for Famitsu magazine, so Famitsu Xbox. It has dates about like when the game's going to come out and all that sort of stuff. It's just a demo disc, but I think it's cool because of the story. And the funny thing is, I'd never seen it before. I picked it up. It was like 300 yen. You know, it's like $1 or something. Like, you're not talking about much money. So I picked that up, and I thought I was done with it. Then I started seeing it multiple times. It's just one of those things that happens. For the PlayStation 3, I totally do not remember the name of this game. This is not much of a game. This one was like 500 yen. I only picked it up because it's a horror game made by Sega. But it is hardcore in Japanese text and language. There's no chance I could ever play it. And it's effectively a visual novel, so it's not really like my type of game. So I ultimately really only got it just because it's a Sega title. I would not have spent much money on this. It's just that the only reason, other than being a Sega title, is that it cost me effectively nothing to get it. So I was like, whatever, that's fine. Now, for the PS5, yes, I picked up a PS5 game. I have kind of learned my lesson on some particular franchises. This is Radurgi 2. Radurgi is a shoot 'em up that existed back on the Dreamcast. It also came out on the GameCube, the PlayStation 2, all in Japan. None of this came over to North America. As well as a few other platforms. It was later re-released, I think, on PS3 and 360 as well. And eventually, I think Red Energy also got HD versions for like the Switch and stuff once this came out. But it has a sequel now. This is a relatively recent release. It was released on the Switch, the PS4, PS5. There might be a digital Xbox version, I don't know. But me being a physical guy, I was like, yeah, all right. So it was cheap enough. I got it now, and I'll never have to think about it again. So I was happy to get that. Fine. Dreamcast. As I mentioned, all that stuff about demo discs, that applies to the Dreamcast. These typically did a bit better because the Dreamcast was far more popular in Japan than the original Xbox was. I love the Dreamcast. It is not a secret. I'm sure you guys know that, having watched me for any amount of time. It's my favorite video game console of all time. So it's very rare for me to be able to pick up new content for it. These days, really the only thing I can find is Dreamcast demo discs. But they are actually legitimately fun for me because I don't really know which discs even exist for it. So every time I'm like going through it, I pull one, I'm like, oh, I had no idea that existed. That's fun. And the best part is they're never expensive because nobody cares about them other than guys like me. And even amongst, I would argue, amongst retro game collectors that are pretty extreme, based on the comments I've seen, most of you do not care about demo discs. So I'm kind of fighting a battle by myself. And I'm fine with that because that keeps it cheap. Anyway, let's talk about the ones we picked up all the same. Frame Gride, Pilot Style. Now, Frame Gride was an exclusive Japanese Dreamcast game. It's a pretty good one, actually. It has since been fan translated, so if you have like a Dreamcast with an ODE in it, you can play the translation on that. There's actually 2 different demo discs of this, to my knowledge, and I have the other one. I think it was called like Test Pilot or something. It's a different disc, but yeah, Pilot Style. What does it actually contain? I don't know. Stuff, gameplay? I really don't know, but it exists, so I got it. Phantasy Star Online. Now this one was cool because it actually has artwork on the back. That's actually pretty rare for a demo disc. They usually don't bother with that. But it even says it on the side, Phantasy Star Online. That just says, like, you know, demo, not for resale version. That's a big thing. On the disc it'll say not for sale, or not for resale is the American interpretation of that, but theirs will straight up say not for sale. That's their way of saying this is a demo disc. It'll be on the back as well. So yeah, again, I just wanted to pick it up for that's cool reasons. This is the only one that I spent any money on, probably because this is a game that's in high demand, and having a demo disc for it is even weirder because this game has collectors. So you'll see Marvel vs. Capcom 2 demo disc. There are hardcore Marvel vs. Capcom fans that like to collect a lot of the merch. I'm actually good friends with one of them. And I send him, he's a collector, he likes his stuff. I send him photos of stuff, and he's like, cool. Like, he usually doesn't really care. I sent him a photo of that, and he's like, that I kind of want. And I was like, yeah, I bet you do. But I got it. So anyway, yeah, if I saw another one of these, I would have picked it up for him. But, you know, I am ultimately the Dreamcast you know, crazy person, so I kind of need it. But if I did find a second one, I would absolutely get one. Anyway, continuing on, we got Biohazard Trial Edition Code Veronica. So Biohazard Code Veronica Trial Edition. This is just a demo disc for Resident Evil Code Veronica. Funny enough, there are actually 2 of these. This I know. This is the playable one. There's actually a second one that's just a movie disc. I've had that for years. And I when I first saw this, I was like, I couldn't remember if this was the one I had or not. Thankfully, I did not have this one, so it was a good pickup. But yeah, that would have sucked. I certainly would never make a mistake like that. But yeah. Another one that's pretty cool because it's such a good game, Giga Wing. Giga Wing, oddly a lot of Capcom ones, which is really cool. Giga Wing is a really cool shoot 'em up for the Dreamcast. Having a demo disc for it is very sweet. One of my favorite games, actually, that it has a demo disc, Power Stone. You know, again, not a lot of gameplay content in there, but I don't even care. That's not really the point. It's just kind of awesome to actually have it. Then a demo disc for a totally Japanese game, Shangri-La Cyber Angels Mahjong Battle Super Premium Movie Disc. That's just the parts I can read. I think it is just a Mahjong game that's like, you know, just got a bunch of flashing lights. Like, they try to make Mahjong like super exciting. It's not, but like I try, and so it's a demo of a Mahjong game. Okay, dokie. Then we got a few more of the Dreamcast Magazine demo discs. This one is called the Dreamcast with Special GD ROM by Enterbrain. I don't know, but it's a special demo disc. These were cool just to see what they were, and then realize on top of it that it gets even better. So there was a couple of different Dreamcast magazines in Japan. This one was literally just called Dreamcast Magazine GD, and GD stands for Gigabyte Disc, which was the format the Dreamcast used. This one features Ryo and Joy from Shenmue 2 on the cover. I don't believe there's any content within it that's about them other than maybe like a little Shenmue 2 video clip or something. But this is issue number 10. If you guys saw the hard-off video, I actually also had found number 11, so there was a nice little sequence there. And then after that, I also found another one that just has Joy on the cover, and this is issue number 12. So there's presumably more Shenmue 2 content on there. So the funny thing is, I bought both of these, and then when I got back here, I realized I forgot that I had owned this already. But the reason I forgot it is, okay, so I'm a hyper collector. All right, so I keep all my Dreamcast stuff in one area. I had the other copy of this in my Shenmue area, and forgot that you understand the problem. But anyway, so yeah, now I got that. Whatever. I'll probably narrow that down a bit, just because like there's no reason I have to have 2 copies of that, like logically. And then the last one I got didn't come in a case. It came in like a little sleeve, and I was like, I can't let it sit in that, so I put it in just like a clear DVD case. Not ideal, but that's what I did. This one is just called AM2 of CRI 2001 New Movie Lineup, or New Lineup Movie Collection. So it's just a disc containing videos of games that were going to come up on the Dreamcast made by AM2. AM2 is the guys who made, that was Yu Suzuki Studios, so they made Shenmue 1 and 2, they made like Virtua Fighter 3, I believe Propeller Arena, although that never got released. There might be a video of it on there for all I know, because that was the year it was supposed to come out, so no idea. But yeah, that's cool all the same. Okay, now, before we move on to the next section, we have one more strange pile to get through. This one is, before I even show you any of these titles, is going to require some serious context. So I was hanging with a buddy of mine. His name is Sunshine. He and I went to Japan looking for stuff together. He has some collecting goals I'm not for. Like, he does a lot of PC stuff and whatever, which is fine. I got nothing against that. It's just not my thing. One of his weird goals is he likes to pick up games with infamous historical figures on the cover art just because he finds it so baffling that it exists. And he kind of got me into that a little bit, at least enough that I got this pile of them, because there are some weird ones out there that you just go, huh, that exists? That's really strange. And you buy it mostly for the joke, not necessarily for the game. But I will warn you, there are people you're about to see where you're like, that's kind of offensive. But I didn't make these, the Japanese did, okay? So let's just get that out of the way. So everything here was purchased solely because it's a strange person on the cover you cannot believe is on the cover of a video game. And I warn you now, there will be people where you go, that's awful. Yes, I agree with you, but it's weird, and that's why it was done. The first, and easily the least offensive, is this. This is a Famicom exclusive game. I forget the name of it, but it's got Gorbachev on the cover. Now, if you're like under the age of 30 and you don't know who Gorbachev is, he was the last leader of the Soviet Union before it collapsed in 1991. This game is literally about trying to create an oil pipeline to go from Russia, or then the Soviet Union, to Japan, for bringing oil to Japan. That's what this game is about. It exists, and this was like, he was all over wanting to find this. Then we went to one store and they had 2 copies. Again, it was pretty cheap, so I was like, all right, that's kind of funny, I'll pick that up. The next 2 contain the same historical individual, and you cannot believe these games are real, and it would only have been possible to release these in Japan in the 90s. I must stress this again. I apologize to anybody who gets offended. I'm not trying to. This exists solely for the fact that I saw that and went, whoa, okie dokie. We're going to get that because it's insane. For the Super Famicom, a game called Barbarossa. Yes, that is who you think it is. It's because of Operation Barbarossa, where he invaded Russia. But it's just the fact that they just, like, put him on the cover of it. To be fair, it's got other historical figures. That looks like Churchill down there and Stalin. But, woof. Yeah, anyway, it's just when you see it, going through a sea of Super Famicom games, there's Mario, there's Kirby, and then there's the biggest monster in human history. Right there on the cover, you're like, bruh. So, got it. Next up, for pretty much exactly the same reason, for the Sega Mega Drive, I think it's called Advanced Daikaisen, which is like a strategy war thing. Yeah, that's him again. Along with Churchill, again, Stalin, looks like Mussolini, and FDR. So a pretty infamous cavalcade of figures. 2 good ones and 3 just terrible ones. Seriously. Ugh. But this copy is like, so a lot of these advanced war simulator games, they come with big manuals. So like a lot of time, the big manual is hard to find. So a lot of time, if you're looking for this game for whatever reason, you'll notice that it doesn't have the manual inside. And that's because it's too big for the Mega Drive case. So if it survives, it's always attached to it like this, but a lot of people just lose it. So I was pretty lucky to have the manual. Not that I could read a single word on it. It's really just, you just look at it, you can't believe this is real. Because even the Japanese, like at the time, they didn't understand why that was offensive to a lot of people, but now they would never do that. So you can't even say Sega does with Nintendo, because Nintendo did that too. Okay. And now onto a slightly more modern one that is equally, not equally, but it is funny. It's more like the Gorbachev one. For the Sega CD, or Mega CD more accurately, we have a game called The Third World War. Now, this is not an exclusive title. This came out in North America on the Sega CD, but they completely changed the box art. However, in Japan, it featured Saddam Hussein and Bill Clinton. It is what it is. Anyway, I hope that didn't make all of you tune out. Give me a second. I'm going to reset the table, and we'll go to part 2. And we're back. Okay, so hopefully you guys weren't totally checked out by that. We got a bunch of stuff. As you can see, some pretty cool stuff there at the end. And some stuff I'm trying to hide from you because it was just insane, but you'll see it. Okay, so first up, let's just start off with a little accessory thing we found. For the Sega Dreamcast, we found a carbon fiber controller. So obviously, again, Dreamcast, favorite console of all time. The Japanese got way more iterations of the console and way more iterations of the controllers and accessories and all that sort of stuff. This is the carbon fiber controller. It's just a design pattern, but I really like it. It was just there, and I was like, oh, yes, definitely picking that up. That's really cool. That's right in my wheelhouse, so I was happy to have that. Next up, for the Neo Geo CD, I found 3 games, actually, and that was pretty exciting because the Neo Geo CD is not a system where I have like some design on a full set, but it's not inconceivable that I might reach that point because I think I have like 88 of them or something, and I think there's only like 100 on the system. So unfortunately, some of the ones I'm missing are like, like, you know, one in particular is like, I don't think that's realistic to ever own, but, you know, we'll see. Maybe one day. You never know what kind of deals you might fall into. But here's what we walked away with on this trip. Super Sidekicks 3, which is just soccer or football to most of the world. Ninja Masters, I was really happy to get that. That's a cool fighting game. That's an expensive one, but I got a pretty good deal on it. We found it in Nagoya. At a store where they had a lot of good stuff and it was tax-free, and yeah, I was happy about that. And then the only one that I put down real money on, this one hurt, but you know, I spent much less than it goes for on eBay and much less even than it goes for on Mercari. So yeah, and it's done, it's off the list, and I never have to think about trying to get this again. Metal Slug 1. Metal Slug 1 is annoying because it is a common game in the sense that it has existed on multiple platforms over the years. It is a very good game, but on its actual original home platforms of like the AES and the CD is annoyingly expensive. Now, AES is unattainable. That's like a car, like how much that would cost. This is just annoying. But yeah, they had it, and I was like, yep, sold. I'm doing it. I'm pulling the trigger on this. With the yen collapsing, I guess I didn't even really explain that to you guys right now. At the time I went, and this is still mostly true, I suppose, the yen has seriously tanked compared to the US dollar. Like, ideally for them, for the Japanese, it was historically supposed to be about 108 yen to a dollar. Basically, 1 yen was supposed to be 1 American cent, and then the 8 represented the 8% sales tax they charged on stuff. That was the idea. They increased sales tax a couple of years ago by 2%, so then the ideal number became 110 yen to a dollar. But I'm not going to go into all the economic details of this, but basically a very strong US dollar and a weakening Japanese economy has resulted in about 160 yen to a dollar. So that difference is astronomical from an American perspective, like the amount of savings you get on that. So I don't regret that. That I was never going to get it cheaper. So that's a general rule for all this stuff, by the way. But yeah, that one hurt. Okay, Xbox 360 content. Now, I've told the story a million times, so I'm not going to do the whole thing, but long story short, all you really need to know is, contrary to popular belief, the Xbox brand was not always dead in Japan. The 360 actually did pretty well for the first few years of its existence until, let's just say, Microsoft made some mistakes. And as a result, the Japanese then gave up on it and whatever. So for the first few years of the lifespan of the system there, it actually had a lot of exclusive content. Now, a lot of it was like date sims and graphic novels and that kind of stuff that's not really playable to you if you're not either A, into that type of game, or if you just can't read or speak Japanese, such as myself. Although I'm also not into anime and graphic date sims and all that stuff. But whatever, graphic novels. But that said, there are a bunch of games that are playable, and there are ones that are also just bizarre. So we picked up some of these. First up, a Japanese wrestling game. I don't remember the name of it, but I'll put it there on the screen. It's exclusive to Japan, exclusive to the 360. Okay, to be fair, there might have been a PS3 version that I'm not aware of. But point is, yeah, you couldn't get this game in North America. And it's playable. I mean, it's not going to be like great game, but it's just a wrestling game. And I thought, all right, that's cool. That was only a few bucks. That was a nothing. The next one up, I don't think I could really play because it's very much a strategy type of game, but the premise of it amused me. This is called Conveni 2000X. Meaning the year is unknown, although because the maximum that could be is 2009, it's that old. They should have done, 20XX, But anyway, the idea is you're supposed to, from what I can tell based on the screenshots, you're basically, it's like SimCity, but you're basically trying to plan out where to put all your convenience stores to dominate the convenience store market. And if you've been to Japan, you know that ain't no joke, man. Like, there's convenience stores strategically placed all over that country. So the idea that they made an Xbox 360 game about exactly that premise, pretty awesome. Can't really play it, but I think it's neat, so I got it. Then we have some more heavy hitter games. These were not cheap, particularly the last one. I do not regret it. I got deals, but these still hurt. This one hurts for a different reason, but I'll point it out. This is Dodonpachi Saidoju. This is a Dodonpachi shoot-'em-up game. One of the more sought-after ones. The reason this hurts is I think in the end this probably cost me like $70. And that was okay. That I'm not upset about. But why I get annoyed by this is a couple of years ago, I went to Japan and I found this in a book-off. And they were only charging like 5,000 yen for it, which is like 30 bucks, if that. And even then, that was a deal. Like, I was like, oh, wow. So I went ahead and I bought it, only to find out when I got back to the hotel that it had the wrong disc inside. And so I was like, man, that sucks. So I was able to return it, but I was trying to hope like maybe they just put the wrong disc in there. They realized they had not, so I didn't get it that cheap. So I ended up getting it for the 70 that it's kind of more appropriate price point within Japan. So I was like, okay, that sucks, but it just hurts me that I almost got it for cheap that one time, and then this I just got it kind of average price. But that's okay. I'm all right with that. This one was on my list for a long time. And I saw it a couple times on this trip, but usually just in really expensive, like, never going to happen type of cases. One of the Surugayas we went into, it was just kind of there amongst the cases and was normal price. So I think for about 70 is what I got this one as well. This is Radurgi Massive. Remember I was just talking about Radurgi 2? They HDified it for the Xbox 360, so I apologize earlier. I played coy about knowing if it had come to the 360 or not. Although I do think it also came to the PS3. That I'm actually genuinely not sure, but I would imagine that it did. This is Radurgi Massive. So it's basically they added new modes and a whole bunch of new content, made it HD, blah, blah, blah. Before I think they eventually redid this exact same thing on the Switch or whatever years later. But yeah, so this is a cool game. I've got it on multiple platforms now. But yeah, it was more so like it's a very playable game if you cannot speak Japanese, much like this one is, which is why these have higher value, and the Japanese know that. But yeah, that's a cool release, so I was happy to get that. Then we hit oil, okay? I saw this game twice on this trip, just twice. And the first time I saw it, it was 98,000 yen. Now, back in the day, 98,000 yen would have been about $1,000. But that's how bad their economy has gotten, is now that would be closer to like, I want to say like 700, maybe 600. I did not put down that kind of money for a video game. I just want that to be very clear. So I saw that and I just laughed. I'm like, never going to own that. Just not going to happen. But then my buddy and I, we were in a Surugaya, and I saw the same game behind glass, and the price was substantially cheaper. I want to say it was like 40,000, which is still a lot. Like, that's like 250. Like, that's a lot of money for a video game. But that's much lower than this game is supposed to be, to the point where it really had me going, what is wrong with it? And on the sticker, they had, like, in Japanese, they had written that there was slight damage to the disc. And I was like, I wonder how bad this damage is. So we had them take it out. I inspected the disc. I saw what they were talking about, but it was incredibly minor, to the point where I'm like, I don't think this even matters. So I just decided to roll the dice, and I hurt my wallet, because I've been mostly buying things like those demo discs that don't cost anything, so I hadn't really spent a whole lot of money yet. So I was like, this is where I hurt. This is where it's going to hurt. Other than Metal Slug. Metal Slug hurt. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to hope there's nothing actually wrong with this disc, like that it dumps correctly and all that. I brought it back here. I popped it in my hacked up 360, and I attempted to dump it, and it worked just fine. It ripped all the way through, no issues, totally playable. So there is actually nothing wrong with it. So here we go. Here we go. This was a win. It was expensive, but it was a win. Sakura Flamingo Archives. The single rarest Xbox 360 game in existence. By far also the most expensive one. Like, you can look this game up for yourself. I have no regrets. But yeah, is that dumb? Oh, ultimately, yes. But I was like, yes, I was thrilled to get it. This was the first one where when you watch the game hunting videos, you'll probably know when I got this, because I was just like upset with myself. I don't regret it, but I do, but I don't. Like, you know what I mean? You ever do that where you put down money on something, you're like, man, I hate myself, but I love myself. I'm glad I got this. I'm very happy. And it was scary to me until I dumped it. Once I dumped it and realized it was totally fine, I was like, oh. But if it didn't dump or even recognize, then I would have been really upset. But it worked out just fine. So, cool. Happy about that. Now, we got just a couple more items here. We got some GameCube stuff. One, this was cheap. Again, I told you I like my demo discs. This was just an interesting one. This is a Club Nintendo exclusive GameCube demo disc. I don't actually know what's on it. I did dump it. It worked just fine, but it's just, like some videos and some demos of things. Like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't know the specific demos or videos in question, but that's the basic content. It's from 2004, that much I know. I just liked it because it was a Club Nintendo exclusive. I don't know how many people out there remember Club Nintendo, but Club Nintendo, the idea was like you bought Nintendo games and they would come with little coupon codes, and then you could redeem those codes on their website. You stack up points, and then once you had enough points, you could just get free stuff sent to you, and all the stuff that was an option was all exclusive to that website, aka you could not buy it anywhere. And Japan had the same thing, and theirs was more robust. So there was a GameCube exclusive demo disc in Japan from Club Nintendo. And what's even dumber is this, again, it was only like 500 yen. Like, that's like $2. Like, it wasn't anything expensive. It's one of those things where it's rare, but that doesn't mean valuable. This is not the rarest thing. You can go to eBay right now and find this. but it does mean expensive. It is funny how that works. I would argue there's less of these than this, but this has demand and this does not. Economics, man. Okay. Also for the GameCube. Now here's this made me happy. It upset me, but it made me happy. It was the same way as Sakura Flamingos. It upset me, but it made me happy. The GameCube, my goal with it has been, I want every GameCube release that never came out on the original Xbox. So once you deduct all those games, the collection becomes vastly more possible. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think the Europeans had like 10 or 12 exclusives, something like that. I have them all. I'm done. I finished it. The Japanese had like 80. And I have all but 3 of them. And then the US, we had a bunch, and that one's the one I paid the least attention to, which is ironic. But with the Japanese ones, I was only missing 3. Now, I'm only missing 2. Now, annoyingly, of the 3, which is what's dumb is that one of them, if you go online, I'm not going to tell you what the name of the game is because I want to see if I can find it myself. But one of them is not expensive. It's like a $30 game on eBay, which means if you could find it in Japan, it would probably cost like $10 max. But I just never have found it. And after this trip, we went everywhere. The fact that I never saw it is insane. Then there's one other game that I don't know if I'm ever going to own because I've only seen it once and it was unattainable then. And then eBay prices on it are just like this level. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Then there's one I had seen a few times, but I'd never pulled the trigger on. This time, I pulled the trigger. I did it so that it was done and it was over because it was never going to get cheaper than this. I just did it. Redurgy. This is this. This is just the updated version of this, which is even funny too because this game is an updated version of the Dreamcast game. I can't read it off the top of my head, but back here I had translated it. It basically says like updated GameCube mode with new this and that. So like this is not the same as the Dreamcast release. This is a game that they just kept adding new stuff to over the course of time. But for the GameCube set, it was essential because it never came out on the original Xbox. There is a PS2 incarnation of this. I don't care about that, but you know it does exist. Just to point it out. Okay, now the last 2 items. I guess because you can't see this one, I'm going to save it for last, even though I'm kind of jumping ahead a bit. But since you can see this, we might as well talk about it, because I do like my reveals. This was the only console I picked up from a Surugaya on this trip. Now, if you saw the Hard Off video, I picked up just 2 other consoles, which you've already seen. But this was a brand new Dreamcast I picked up. This is cool. This is the R7, or known as Regulation 7 Dreamcast. And it also includes the controller. Now, this is worth a rare variance video, but I'll basically tell you the elevator pitch of this. A lot of people are like, why is it Regulation 7? Is that just some more Japanese English where they just put words together and thought that that was cool? No, this one has an actual explanation. So, at the time when the Dreamcast was commercially relevant, and this law probably still exists, in fact, I'm pretty sure it does, gambling is illegal in Japan. But there are loopholes around it. So, like, you go to a pachinko parlor, all right? So you go in and you win games of pachinko, and then you can trade in your chips, which is not gambling. You're just using chips. You can trade in those chips for cash value. It's like you can't gamble directly with money. You know what I'm trying to say? So you can go in and buy these chips, and then you can use these chips to play games. I'm now going to take the chips. Oh, what do you know? The chips have value. It's kind of that mentality, kind of the way like Vegas does it, except Vegas doesn't hide that it's not illegal. Whatever. That law is known as Regulation 7. Okay, so Sega, for whatever reason around that time, decided to try and market the Dreamcast to pachinko parlors. Don't ask me why. But pachinko parlor, I guess you had to be like licensed as a pachinko parlor. I don't really know all the details on this. But if you were, you had the option to buy the Regulation 7 Dreamcast for your pachinko parlor. And from there, it would basically, there was like betting software like JRA Pat, which was like a horse racing disc, stuff like that. And you could connect it online and place bets in pachinko bars. And then if pachinko bars also wanted to use it to play other games just for whatever purposes, they could do that. There were also like slot machine games and stuff like that for the Dreamcast. So individual bars might have come up with some sort of payment system, or it could have just been one of those things you can play a Dreamcast after you've come through the paywall of our particular establishment. I don't really know all that. But that is why Sega did this. They basically, this is what I love about Sega. They branded it the name of the law that they were intentionally breaking. Illegally breaking the law, if you follow my logic. I love that about Sega. And the same thing is it comes with a matching controller that also says R7 on it. That's cool too, because usually the logo is pretty faded, and a lot of these are in bad shape because they were just sitting open and exposed in pachinko bars to the elements of humans, as well as smoking and all that sort of stuff. So this one's actually in pretty good shape, all considered. Now, it doesn't have the box or anything like that. There was also specific Regulation 7 disc software for this. It didn't come with it, but hilariously, last summer, I bought that exact disc at a store that no longer exists in Tokyo called Friends. So I actually basically have the complete thing. And that software also would allow you to connect online and place bets and whatever. So, yay, a new Dreamcast. Okay, now we're going to talk about this. The one thing, this white box. This was my last pickup of this trip. No one I was on the trip with saw this. And the reason they didn't see it is this happened right before I went to the airport. So I typically stay in Yokohama, okay? And then for me to get to Haneda, the airport, I basically have to take all my stuff out of the hotel and then go to Yokohama Station, take the train there. And then once I get to Yokohama Station, I can either take a bus over to the airport or I can take another train. However, that same station has a Surugaya specialty store in it on like the 7th or 8th floor. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's one of those two. And so I had plenty of time after I had got to the station before my flight. So what I ended up doing is just kind of like putting my bags to the side, and I just went up to the Surugaya to have one last look around before I left. And I'd been in this store a bunch of times on the trip, so I really wasn't expecting anything in there, but you never know. Somebody might put new inventory in there. I wasn't seeing anything special, and I was just kind of thumbing through games, kind of not desperate, but I also was just trying to kill some time. Then I got to, and as soon as I say the name of the system, some people are going to know exactly what I picked up. So I'm thumbing through the N64 selection, which is nothing impressive. Just you know, loose carts, nothing that crazy. And then the boxes, right? Nothing in the glass case, nothing that expensive or interesting. I'm just thumbing through. And then I see one and I pass it. I pull it back. Take it out. No. No. That can't be. No. And I'm holding it because it's not... It should not be there. It looks like it had been there for a while, which it couldn't have been because I had never seen it and it had been in that store very recently. So it was clearly recently placed there or misplaced there. I don't know, but it was there. And there's one person in particular who knows already what I'm talking about. They have figured it out, and they are probably cursing the screen out at me. But there it was. The last N64 game from Japan that I needed. Okay. For those who don't know, the N64 is not a system I've ever had any grand design on having a full set of, but to the end of that possibility, I have obtained all of the European exclusives, which there are only 4, plus technically 3 that they got and Japan got, but theirs are in English and whatever, so I grabbed those 2 anyway. Japan had something like 50, I don't remember off the top of my head how many it was, but it's quite a few. And I used to see them all the time and just pick them up, but diminishing returns. All the way to the point where we got to just one that I could never find, ever, except for one incident. My very first trip to Japan, ever, back in 2017, I went into what I now know was a Surugaya specialty shop. And it was there, and I put it in the cart. So, oh, cool, that's on my list of things. And I was hanging with this dude who I'm not going to expose his name because I don't want anybody going after the dude. I was just hanging with this guy, very nice guy, and he's like, don't get that. That's way too much money for that. Because at the time, it was, I don't know, I think it was 5,000 yen, which, to be fair, based on the exchange rate at the time, that would have been closer to $50, maybe 45. So he was saying, don't get that. That's too much money for that. My first trip to Japan, this guy buys retro games all the time. He's going to know what he's talking about. I put it back. I never see it again until the very end of this trip. And that game is Mario no Photo Pie. Boxed, complete. If you don't know, this game, from N64's perspective, is basically the equivalency of this 360 game. This game has sold for as high as $1,000. This game is behind a glass case at the National Video Game Museum in Frisco, Texas. Now these days, after I got it, and I couldn't believe I actually got it. Like once I took it out, and I was like, I could not believe this was in my possession. Like it's immaculate. Like whoever had this just dropped it off there because like it looks like it's never been used. I will even show you this. The manual is crispy and perfect. The only thing that's wrong is a slight ding on the upper right corner. The cartridge, which is a weird looking cartridge, has the plastic casing around it still. This is not even really a game. That's the dumbest part. It's effectively a photo app, and it had like these proprietary SD cards, and you would take like photos and do all this stuff with the N64 and all that. There it was. But I had passed on it because in the past because of my friend, and I thought I'd see it all the time. I never saw it again until this trip. But like I said, if you look on eBay now, you'll see that this game is there, but it usually sells for like $400 to $500 now. It has sold for as high as $1,000. To be fair, N64 stuff is kind of coming back down, so that might be a factor. So by far the most expensive thing I put down money for was this. But man, did I kill it on this trip. So I was really, really happy with that. Because I kind of initially, again, you can see in the game hunting videos, and if you're hanging with my buddies, you would know, I wasn't doing very well game hunting wise. Because I kept it up, got that up, like just kind of just diminishing returns. I wasn't really finding anything. Eventually I found my stuff. But yeah, whew, happy about that one. That one just, my Japanese N64 set is now complete. Yay, let's, the confetti. All right. Anyway, that will do it for this video. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you guys, if you have any interest in going to Japan, I highly recommend you watch all the Japanese game hunting videos I've been doing. I hope you'll also check out my travel channel where you can see things in Japan that are outside of video games, but also just basic information on like how to get there, what the process is like, what the experience of being there is, and all that sort of fun stuff, and just all the other places I go that you guys can see and learn about, or live vicariously if you want to think of it that way. Whatever it is, it's just fun. Anywho, with that said, I hope you guys will do me a favor. Please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all my social media stuff in the description. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, travel channel, as I said before. I appreciate the support on all those platforms. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.